Hey y'all. So glad everybody's here. Even though I'm late, I apologize. If you can't tell, I literally just got out of the shower. Like literally seconds ago. So shucks. Let's see. Let's see. I got David, Wingrace, Justin. Hello. Glad to see you guys. And hopefully, we get some more looky-loos a little bit later. But until we do, look, y'all, let me tell you what I did today while we waiting to see if anybody else is coming in. I usually take a little gummy. It helps to quell my anxiety when in between doses of the actual prescribed medicine that I'm on, right? So today I'll go into the shop to pick up some gummies. Excuse me. I'm gonna need a bottle of water in a minute here. And the lady was like, "What you got? Would you like to try some of the mushrooms, the magic mushroom gummies?" And I'm like, well, tell me what effect I'm gonna be looking at with a magic mushroom. Is it gonna be similar to how I feel with THC? And she's like, "Oh no, it's a whole different thing, yada yada yada." So I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'll try it." I took this psychedelic. I took this psychedelic gummy, and the first little half I took, because I don't take a whole one because I want to see how it's gonna make me be. The first little half I took did absolutely nothing. I took the second half of it, and now I feel like so. If things get worse, like if I start not making sense to you, tell me, because this is some new ish to me. I remember you telling me you make gummies. I remember you telling me you make gummies, David. I have to just I go to the smoke shop and get the Delta 8 ones because those are the ones you can buy from anywhere. But anywho, we didn't come here to talk about my vices, right? We came here to talk about what did we come here to talk about? X-Men. Yeah. So if you are interested in knowing what sources I use for my research and stuff, gathering of information, I guess you could say, for this live stream, you can always look in the show notes. They will be right there for you. Also, my Linktree is there. So if you'd like to join the Discord, or if you want to shoot me some financial support, or if you want to do all of that, catch me on social medias. All of that is in the description box, in the show notes. So hopefully, let's see, where am I? Well, look at there. I didn't want to do that. So let's put me back here. If I start to take a trip, if I don't start to really take a trip, then the gummies don't work, So, and I'm not even gonna be mad at it. I'll go back and just do the things that I'm been doing, which is getting me that little gummy and cutting it into little pieces and making it last, But we're gonna see. I didn't want to bring you guys along, but it's just not. It didn't kick in. I don't know, because it don't make you sleepy, right? Because I did sit down on the bed, and this is why I ended up taking a shower so late. I sat down on the bed and I ended up falling asleep. So I fell asleep, and it was like, I guess maybe an hour, maybe a little bit more than an hour. And I'm like, I drank coffee and everything. Why am I sleepy? So yeah, I don't know if that's what it is or what. Anywho, it don't matter. We're gonna talk about some X-Men. It's crazy. Y'all already know that one of my talking points, what it's gonna be, because people are crazy. I don't think I've ever taken Ambien, but if I'm if it relaxes you, then I'm real. That's then it did its job. If that's what it's supposed to do, then it did its job. um, let's see. Yeah, we're gonna talk about some of the same old freaking talking points that we talk about with everything nowadays, because we just had a whole stream on it. When was that? Last week, early last week, and now here we are about to encroach this subject again because people seem to have forgotten what the X-Men are about. So here we go, y'all. Let's see. I forgot what I was supposed to be doing. Yeah, I'm a little bit confused. Just a little bit. So we're gonna talk X-Men 97. We know that this X-Men is picking up where the original X-Men, the animated series, left off. Now, where we were when we last saw the X-Men was Professor X was literally on his deathbed. He had been hit with some kind of sonic ray, and there was nothing that no earthly treatment for the things that he was going through, and he was unable to send out telepathic messages. So Magneto, who was set to basically go to war against the entire nation, or really the entire world, right? For him and his mutants to go to war against humanity. And he found out Professor X's condition. He ran to be by his friend's side because regardless to what their different ideologies, their philosophies were, they were friends. So he goes to be by his friend's side. He's able to boost Xavier's telepathic powers so that he is able to reach his love, Lalandra, who was in a different star system. She comes to be by his side as well. And she's like, if I take him back to space with me, then I think we will be able to help him there. But he's going to have to leave here, and he's going to have to leave forever. So everybody say bye, goodbye, Professor X. So now Professor X, as far as it looked in the last time we saw them, it looked like he was going with Lalandra. Now, as we pick up in X-Men 97, it's starting to appear that they're having a funeral. I don't know if they are kind of faking it because they have to have a reason for why Xavier is missing or whatever, but it looks like we're having a funeral for Professor X. It also looks like in his last will and testament, he handed the keys to the kingdom over to Magneto. There are many people who believe that this will make Magneto turn into a softer version of himself. That remains to be seen. But this is where we are when we pick up with X-Men 97. You said, yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad that worked for her. But yeah. But then we have, I guess, a little bit to talk about as far as the press surrounding X-Men 97, and then possibly what we think we're in for when we get into the actual series. When we look at the titles of X-Men 97, of course, we got 10 episodes, and of course, I put this on here, and I don't know if you guys how well it's relating to you all, but the first 2 episodes will be starting on March 20th. They're going to come on at a reasonable hour, which is 6 p.m. Where am I? Not Eastern, Central Time. And then you can go ahead and do the math, the conversions for where you live. So on March 20th, which is Wednesday, we get the 2-episode premiere. That is To Me, My X-Men and Mutant Liberation Begins. We pretty much talked about what we think is going to happen in the first episode. We're going to say our goodbyes to Professor Xavier. We're going to see how Magneto decides to handle the the opportunity that Xavier has handed to him. We're going to see how the rest of the X-Men are getting used to the absence of Professor X, and we're going to see a mutant liberation begin. And we saw Fire Made Flesh. That is coming out on March 27th. Fire Made Flesh could be a whole lot of things, right? I'm wondering if it's going to be one of a lesser known X-Men, or is it going to have something to do with Jean? If you got a different what Fire Made Flesh could be, put it in the chat. Then we see Motendo Life Death Part 1. That's coming on April 3rd. And Life Death Part 2 is April 17th. So there is a week in between Part 1 and Part 2 of this episode of the Life Death episode. We also get on April 10th, Remember It. All I can think of with that is how what is his name? Gambit. How he always say the name's Gambit, remember it. It seems like that might be a Gambit episode. Bright Eyes on April 24th. Could that potentially be a Cyclops episode? Tolerance is Extinction, May 1st, May 8th, and whatever that last date is, because I got it covered with my title. Let me see. 97 does refer to the time period because the original series of X-Men came out in that era. And yes, this will be streaming on Disney Plus beginning March 20th. So there we have it. If anybody has any ideas about those titles that I didn't have an idea about, drop it in the chat, and we're going to move to the next slide. So, like I said, we always have to come back to foolishness. Oh no, they made the X-Men woke. So it's almost like saying, tell me you never watched the X-Men movies, you never read the comics, and you never watched the animation without telling me you never did those things. Because again, going by what we talked about last week, that definition of the word woke, and as a matter of fact, let me pull it. Let me pull it. If I got it. I might not have it. Doggone it. I always think I have stuff and I don't. Doody-doody-doo. Open this. And open woke. Excuse me for a minute. Oh, yeah. The flame or fire title might mean the Hellfire Club. That is absolutely, that's probably exactly what it means. So I'm wondering if we're going to call it the Hellfire Club this time. What did they call it before? Didn't they call it something different? I can't remember. I thought I had my definition of quote unquote woke. Okay, so in the context of TV and entertainment, the term woke has taken on a slightly different meaning than what it means with politics and all of that. It's often used to describe content or individuals that are socially aware and address issues such as inequality, discrimination, and social justice. A woke TV show or entertainer typically incorporates themes that reflect a conscious understanding of societal challenges and a commitment to promoting positive change. How could you have watched the X-Men without catching any of the allegories? And I know an allegory will definitely stand out more to a person who relates to it, if that makes sense. Specifically, the people who are discriminated against, when we're talking about the X-Men, people who are discriminated against, people who are unaccepted in their lives, people who have a fear, an irrational fear of what they don't understand, all of those things. Let me see. Oh, they were mentioned on the cover of the Daily Bugle in the trailer. So the Hellfire Club is definitely going to be the Hellfire Club. Can't remember what they called them before. It was like they were trying not to use the words Hellfire, but now they're going to use it. And Justin says the Hellfire Club was great back in the original run. It happened around the Dark Phoenix story. David is he's not remembering the Hellfire Club. Let me see. Did they call it something different? And I know I've been rewatching them. Inner Circle. It was called the Inner Circle. Yeah. So now we are going to actually use the words Hellfire Club. I like that. Now, let's see where we were. Let's close that. I don't need that open. So they made the X-Men woke. This is the new complaint that's going on with our whiners, our regular whiners on the internet. And I'm going to, of course, share some of their sentiments because I find it so incredible that people are really, this is what we're doing with the X-Men. But I guess if they do it with Star Trek, they'll do it with anything, right? So there was an article in this little online rag called Fandom Pulse. It is written by a gentleman named John Della Rose. John Della Rose wrote the article. No, Stan Lee and Chris Claremont didn't always intend the X-Men to be woke. So in essence, they're saying this is not the way it was written. It wasn't written to be quote unquote woke, right? And he might have a point. John Della Rose might have a point. Now, when he starts making his where he's debunking that it was always socially conscious, some of the things that he says is basically, I ain't going to call it stupid. I don't want to call anybody stupid. They're basically, he's debunking himself because first and foremost, the first rumor that was easily debunked, and this is according to John Della Rose. This is not Latasha saying this. This is John Della Rose saying this, okay? The first rumor that was easily debunked is that Stan Lee had Professor X and Magneto as an allegory for Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, and that the X-Men were meant to highlight the civil rights struggle in America in the 1960s. This was not true in the least, as the X-Men were simply created as another team book after the success of the Fantastic Four, using a familiar formula of a group of men with one beautiful woman for them to pine over, in what was simply another boys' action comic book in the superhero genre. I truly threw all the scare quotes up because, first and foremost, you think that this comic was written and the I guess the parallels to what may have been going on in the world just a few years before, you think that was coincidental? Or do you think that Stan Lee couldn't say, oh yeah, I definitely use this as a parallel or an allegory or a metaphor for the civil rights movement? And if he didn't, if it was not meant to be that way, and if we are going to take people at their word that it was never meant to be that way, isn't that what a good story does? A good story is going to make you think about it, especially if you can relate to the characters. So the only thing that John Della Rose could relate to was being a boy looking at beautiful women pining over cartoon characters in a comic book. Not saying that that's not entirely normal. I don't know. I wasn't a boy. I didn't pine over the characters in, excuse me. I didn't pine over the characters in the comic book. I may have liked Wolverine more than I liked Cyclops or that kind of thing. But it was never, oh, they didn't draw him sexy enough. That was not me. Excuse me for a minute. I'm gonna have to get a bottle of water. My throat is starting to scratch. And I truly hate to keep coughing. So I'm gonna get a bottle of water and I will be right back. I guess I should have put it on a loop, huh? Well, when I did come back with a cup of water or a bottle of water, let's see. David says, interesting. I'm still not getting the woke reference. They're saying that we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Justice says, I thought they were talking about the Hellfire Club. He thought they were in first class, but he can't recall. Wingray says, I think the actual Stan Lee quote says they didn't plan it to be at first, but they're like 2 issues in, they realized what they had. And Justin saying it was definitely influenced by the time it started. Thank you, David. A lot of stuff was influenced by the time they were started. Doom was by the 50s and 60s and so on. So all of these things, as everybody said in the chat, that these are all they can all be true. But when a story is written well and people relate to it, that's exactly what you want. So did Black people relate to the story when they're reading it? Of course they did. They could see themselves in the mutants. So could people who were closeted. At the time, especially at that time, you had no right to be out and gay. And you had no right to be anything other than heterosexual in that time. Everybody, I won't say everybody, many people were hiding their identity in that era. Everybody was, they had dual identities. This is how they could relate. And I could go on and on and on. We talk about the Holocaust. We talk about all of these things. These are people who are watching this cartoon, who are reading the comics, and then it moves clear to the movies, who got an understanding of these characters and can say, hey, I can relate to that, whatever your situation is. And it's not for me to dictate how you read it. You get what I'm saying? So because these people, there are certain people who only saw it as entertainment, who only saw it as escapism. That's fine. But for people who think deeper and who move deeper into movies, TV, who overanalyze, kind of like me, then of course we're going to see more. I could go on about a lot of cartoon characters, a lot of comic book characters, a lot of movie characters who hold different meanings, or the things that they are doing in their character relates to a group of people. That's how I look at things. I like to tear it apart. If you don't, that's great, but you cannot take away from a group of people what they see in this form of media. It's unfair to the people who have a different experience than you. Everybody, if you guys are here, I appreciate you being here. Please hit the like button. And if you know somebody who'd be interested in this conversation, share it with them so that this little thing here can grow a bit. I appreciate you. Okay, so another quote from this same article was, the civil rights allegory was never a part of the original script, but the civil rights allegory became talking points for Marvel during the 80s and the 90s during Chris Claremont's tenure on the book. Stan Lee did not create the characters like this and Magneto to not be a villain, even though he eventually said, I did not think of Magneto as a bad guy. And okay, I'm going to stop there for a second, because I didn't think of Magneto as a bad guy. He just had a different philosophy. And again, when we take our mind to what I knew as a youngster, think about this now, what era I'm from. Born in the 70s, right? So the era I'm from, we learned a lot about Martin Luther King. We learned a lot about Malcolm X. And that is why I would draw the comparison as a young person to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Neither one of them were horrible people, but they had different ideologies, they had different philosophies, and sometimes they would disagree with one another, but they were still cool with one another. And that's the way I always saw Xavier and Magneto. They didn't agree on everything. And what they didn't agree on was pretty big stuff. You know, a pretty big thing is one of them is saying by any means necessary, and the other one is saying nonviolence, you know. So they disagreed on really a big thing, but they still found a middle ground. They played chess with each other and chit-chatted and talked, and they were friends who didn't agree. That's a problem that we have today, that we can't, it seems like people can't be friends with somebody with a different ideology, because we identify ourselves too much with our politics or religion or whatever. Hey, Clarence. Oh, and happy St. Patrick's Day. I was supposed to wear green, but again, I was rushing. I did forget. So Justin is telling me he was an anti-villain. He was good at heart, but did some bad things to accomplish his goals. This is true. You say you dream to be green, eat a bad burrito, you'll be green tomorrow. Oh gosh. So anyway, finishing this quote, he said, okay, so Magneto wasn't a bad guy. He was just trying to strike back at the people who were so bigoted and racist. So if you can say that Magneto was striking back at people who were bigoted and racist and I don't know what people's definition of woke is, these people who are writing these types of articles, but don't that sound woke-ish? He was trying to defend mutants. He was trying to defend the LGBTQ+. He was trying to defend marginalized people. He was trying to defend Black people. He was trying to defend immigrants. You can change the word mutants to any of those things, right? But anywho, he was trying to defend mutants, and because society was not treating them fairly, he decided to teach society a lesson. He was a danger, of course, but I never thought of him as a villain. This is what makes me think, like, this guy, the points that he's making are really not the points that he thinks he's making, you know. Claire said, I never got the Malcolm Martin allegory, but I can see it now. And you know, I'm the same person who talks about the religion religious metaphors with Superman. And I know, and like having conversations with friends who are also into comic books and comic book movies and the such, some people that I bring that up to don't see it at all. And then I spell it out. And they were like, you know what? I wasn't even paying attention to that. So yeah, so it's just depending on what lens you're looking at it from. So again, because you didn't see it doesn't make you wrong. It just means that I think at the time that I was coming up, I was reading and writing and arithmeticing when you were still learning to walk, probably, you know. So my mind was already going there by the time you guys were getting these things in your hand, and my mind was already zoomed because I'm older, you know. Hey, March. Thank you for dropping in to say hi. Okay, so what else? So yeah, so we talked about the civil rights allegory part of it, right? Then he also said, and this is John Delarose from Fandom Post website.com, whatever. Chris Claremont modeled the X-Men in a United Nations style world where the characters came from all over the globe, working together from different backgrounds and cultures, as was a progressive dream in the 1980s. We're going to stop there because, yes, the characters came from all over the globe, working together from different backgrounds and cultures. What did those people have in common? We had one group of people, what they had in common was they had the X gene. They were mutants. They came from far and wide to be together. And the reason why is because the rest of the world was attacking them. Then you had you had humanity at large, right? Who they either felt one way or another. Some people were not threatened at all by mutants. And there's another group of people who felt very anti-mutant. And then you had the extremists, the friends of humanity. We might as well call them, nope, I won't say it, but the friends of humanity. Those suckers were the ones that was like, we are going to exterminate them. We're getting rid of them. We had friends of humanity who were in small groups, like Proud Boys and those kinds of associations. And then you had people who were friends of humanity who worked in the government and used their positions of power to try to bring these mutants down. So I don't understand how we don't see. Yes, it was a United Nations style world, but the people who came together were coming together for a cause. You were either coming together because you were being attacked, or you were coming together because you were doing the attacking. You felt threatened by the mutants, you know? So I don't understand, you know. Then this fool says it was closely modeled after Star Trek, where characters would have their cultures and yet be able to do more together. This Star Trek, a utopian society, we're comparing. Now, I understand part of his comparison, but Star Trek was a society where all of that bigotry, all of that racism, all that stuff was a thing of the past. Oh, guys, remember when we used to be like this? And if somebody was still like that, they got called out immediately. Star Trek, the cultures could have the characters could have their cultures because they learned to respect other cultures. And that's why they were able to do more together. So now he says, this was evident in making a character a Russian, like Colossus, and a German priest, like Nightcrawler, among any others. Colossus, Nightcrawler, again, the thing that they have in common outside of the differences, one being German and the other one being Russian, the things that they had in common were they were both being oppressed. Colossus was being oppressed in Russia. Nightcrawler was basically staying in a monastery. So let's be real. It wasn't that we're going to come together because we just we want to be around one another. It was by of necessity that they got to be around each other. So, and he ends with this paragraph by saying, as usual, the idea that the X-Men were about Black civil rights was very much overstated. And again, I don't have to continue to beat this dead horse. I don't agree. Exactly, when Grace. I wish I could have remembered the line, but you are correct. Trek was all about equality and respect. And again, they had already did the hard work. This is why I love Trek so much. It gives us something to aspire to. I don't aspire to live in an era like the X-Men. We are in an era like the X-Men. We are. It might not be Martin Luther King and Malcolm X as much anymore. Now it's the LGBTQ plus and quote unquote wokeness, whatever that is. Justice says, I think a lot of people on all sides just don't get what woke really means. This person, I think, is confused on the matter. This person, again, is a writer also for The Blaze, I believe. And I'm not telling people to go and read his work, but to understand people with a different opinion, sometimes you got to listen to their arguments. And then these arguments start becoming circular, and you start to see that they're not making an awful lot of sense. At least you heard the argument. And that's how I'm feeling about John Delarose and fandompulse.com. I guess that's, I don't know what to call it. It's a website. Let me go to the next. Okay, so of course I went over to Reddit because sometimes the people on Reddit, when they get a bug up their butt, they are able to explain things in a way that I wouldn't be able to. Now, I know you guys are saying that's impossible, Tashi. You got such a gift of gab. Sometimes I too don't have an argument, but I do in this one. But I did like some of the things that I read on Reddit, and I'm going to share that with you. So one of them was from a username. This is the New Sleeve. People complaining about X-Men being woke are like the people complaining about Rage Against the Machine being political. That's always what they've been from the start. It's an allegory for racism and civil rights, about hatred and genocide. The X-Men has long featured minorities, women, homosexuals as main parts of its story. Hell, the leader of the X-Men is in a wheelchair, for Christ's sake. If you didn't pick up on any of that previously, then you're just an idiot. Enough said. I didn't say it. This is the New Sleeve said it. I didn't say that. I'm not calling people idiots. Why, you think I'm mean? What do you think? I am crazy? I'm not going to do that. I love my listeners and viewers and then people with different opinions than me. This is the New Sleeve said that y'all idiots. Oh gosh. Clarence said, I wonder what the writer's point was, other than just to try to spark some flames. Well, this is what he does. This is his that is his style of writing. And is it to spark some flames? I'm sure, because he's got a website, and if like-minded people to him click, find his little corner of the internet, those clicks are worth a little bit of money to him. I'm sure the fact that I've clicked on it twice at this point is worth a little bit of money to him. So that's part of it. He's getting paid for this content and these crazy takes. This is not to say, I truly believe, after reading a lot of his work and skimming a lot of his work, I believe that he believes what he's saying. And he's a Hispanic man, and he doesn't even like the fact that of too much representation of Latina. He says the Latinx. He doesn't even like that. He doesn't think that the women should be trying to lead missions on the X-Men. He has very archaic and backwards beliefs, it seems. And he might not like himself very much because some of the things that he writes is just downright ridiculous. So this is the new sleeve. We got one more from Significant Iron 476 who said, I don't think people mean woke like, oh no, racial minorities. They mean woke like, oh no, trans, non-binary. It was all the rage to hate Black people when I was growing up, and this person says that they are Black. And now it seems like that's transitioning to queer people. And hopefully, as they become more accepted, the hate moves on to something else or eventually just goes away forever. And when that happens, then you can say Star Trek. You can start talking Star Trek at that point, because yes, we will be that much closer when that happens. But I agree to a degree. We as Black people of a certain age probably will remember we're not so far removed from the civil rights movement, right? It was still certain things that we had to think about as kids before doing. But then it was also the same thing for disabled people, same thing for, again, LGBTQ plus community, the same thing for immigrants, so again, this cartoon, this animated series, this comic book franchise, movie franchise has spoken to far more than us, and each group of people that is speaking to sees something different, but they all realize, wow, if I could imagine being this powerful, or if I wish that we could do this, that, and the third, or if we had the strength to fight the way these mutants did, I think that we are forgetting that it's not about us all the time, and then sometimes it is. So if it's not about you, and I mean, if you don't feel compelled to look at this and say, I see a comparison, or I see a similarity to this situation, if you can't do that, that's fine. Don't knock the people who can, because it wasn't for that message, wasn't for you. Wingray says, people seem to forget that to get to Trek, we had to go through a war regarding genetic purity and a nuclear World War III. Exactly. It's not a simple trip. Exactly. And Clarence is agreeing. I'm 100% agreeing. It is not just over the river and through the woods. We got several woods to get through before we get to Star Trek. Okay, so I'm going to play a clip, and I know you guys like, Tasha, you back with the clips? But yeah, I kind of liked playing clips before, so I'm going to play this flipping clip. Let me see. And we are going to see what Stan Lee had to say about the idea for the X-Men.
I had already done Spider-Man with Hulk and Fantastic Four, and my publisher said, give me another book, Stan. We're going strong. Let's do some more. Well, in order to get a new superhero, you have to think of what his or her power is. That's not too hard, but you have to figure out how did they get that power, and that's a little difficult. I can't have them all be bitten by radioactive spiders. So I had already given them their powers, and then it hit me. What if they're mutants? What if they were born that way? I thought that was brilliant, and I ran into my publisher and I told him about the characters. And I said, "We'll make them mutants, and we'll call the book The Mutants." And he said, "No, Stan, that's no good, because our readers wouldn't know what a mutant is." And I said, "You don't have enough respect for our readers. They will know, or else they'll learn by reading the story." He said, "No, I don't like the name The Mutants." So I had to think of something else, because he was the boss. So I thought, after a while, each of them has an extra power. Maybe I'll call them the X-Men. That could sound kind of dramatic. So I ran back to him And I said, okay, how about if we call them the X-Men? And he said, oh, that's great. And as I walked out of his office, I thought, if a reader wouldn't know what a mutant is, how will he know what an X-Man is? But I wasn't about to make an issue of it. I had my title, and that's why the leader, I called him Professor Xavier, because it began with an X, and that tied in with the X-Men and so forth. I've always tried to do our stories so that it didn't matter if you were of the white race, the black race, the brown race, or whatever. So social issues I try to get in the background or underlaying a plot, but never to the point of letting it interfere with the story or hitting the reader over the head.
And to me, what a lovely thing. I'm 100% am sure that that Stan Lee, whether or not he was intended, he was intending for it to have be an allegory to civil rights or to LGBT queer, because the letters are starting to jumble up in my mind. Queer culture or disabled culture or any of these things. Whether he did put that there or not, he knew that he was making social commentary. He knew that he wanted it to be more in the background and not something, again, that you're wielding like a baseball bat. And he knew that whatever color, whatever ethnicity, whatever issue you might have, you might see yourself in one of these characters. He knew it. Any outsider, thank you, Marge. The X-Men represent any outsider, anybody who is being othered in society. Wingray says, not to mention Stan Lee was Jewish and changed his last name to fit in. Exactly. Justin is agreeing with Marge, and I think I remember, because I did a comprehensive after he passed away. It was like one of my early podcast episodes. I really did a huge breakdown on Stan Lee. And speaking of when he passed away, this interview was done with some comic writers, and they reflected on Stan Lee's take on race. So we'll listen to that one before we move on.
Yeah.
You're talking about the 60s when all this was happening. There was a lot of social issues being just blown in your face. The media was all about it. Stan was a showman. Stan was P.T. Barnum in comics. So ultimately, I think he went, this is going to grab attention. This is going to light up, and he went for it. It was easy for him collaborating with other artists like, Jack Kirby and so forth. But also it was easier for people to come in with an idea about a character who was not white, blonde-haired, blue eyes, and Stan would go, well, okay, what do we do now? What's the story? What's the idea? And they would spitball things. And that was Stan's energy. If you could get him excited about it, he would run with it and damn the torpedoes sort of thing. And whether he did it for purely social commentary reasons or to be a good guy, to be a hero himself, to be the leader of a movement, I don't know. But what you look at is what he enabled to occur. Black comic strip characters back in the 50s. A lot of the norms were changing by the time I hit my teen years. And yeah, to start to see Luke Cage, Black Panther, Gabe, these characters there, whoa, people want to see themselves represented in their mythology. They want to enjoy that, and they want to know that the fantasies about what I'd love to be able to do or what my kids, would like to be able to do is represented out there in the world. Remember her fro and all that.
A black woman comic book, like starring her own comic, it would have never happened years ago.
We're saying goodbye to somebody who, as far as we're concerned, had a major impact on our lives and on the industry. And so whatever his motives were, he done good.
Growing up as an African-American, I just really appreciated seeing him represent people of color when he didn't have to and when a lot of other people weren't. What Stan did, which is really great as a writer, is that he reflected the world around him.
Marvel.
Usually when you look back at the older
Punisher,
comic
Rocket
books,
Raccoon,
yeah,
Devil
there are
Man,
chock
Thor.
full of racial stereotypes. Luke Cage was a character that, growing up reading comics in the 70s and in the 80s, I kind of took Luke Cage seriously. You're like, okay, he was this big, tall, muscular black guy with a fro, a metal tiara, blue spandex, and he walked around knocking people out saying "Sweet Christmas." I kind of believed that when I was younger. As I got a little older, I'm like, wait, I don't know anybody who talks or acts like this. But as time progresses and as things become more balanced, then people start becoming more aware of where they might have went left with representation. I think the more stories that we can read by people who are different than us, the better.
And I like that clip as well. So thank you, March. It is a great clip. It talks about whatever his motives were. That is what he achieved. He achieved, to me, a masterpiece in storytelling, because there are so many different ways and so many different layers to something as simple as the X-Men, and people don't believe that, you can be this old and still be into these characters like this. And I'm like, because these characters represent all of us. It's more than the cartoon. It's more than a movie.
Yeah.
All right, so some of the themes, common themes of the X-Men were the civil rights and discrimination. It's one of the most prominent allegories in the X-Men. It's the portrayal of mutants as a marginalized group facing discrimination, prejudice from the rest of society. And this parallels real world struggles such as, again, racial discrimination, LGBTQ plus rights, religious intolerance. All of those things are encompassed in that first theme. Then the second theme was identity and acceptance. Many mutants grappled with accepting themselves and their unique abilities, mirroring the struggles of individuals dealing with their identities, whether it's related to sexuality, race, gender, other aspects. The X-Men emphasized the importance of self-acceptance and embracing one's differences. Do you remember in the movie when, which character was it? Was it Iceman who went home to see his mom, and she was like, well, have you ever tried not being a mutant? Like he was not born that way. Like he did not come from them. And they were like, well, we thought he was just gifted. He is gifted. He has a gift. It was just, hey, Marge, you've joined. You became a member. Thank you. You're so sweet. I just love you, girl. But yeah, it's like that analogy sitting right in that movie. You can't possibly tell me, and what year was that movie? You can't possibly tell me that wasn't meant to be the comparison or the similarity to the coming out conversation that many people were having with their parents at the time. So yeah, then you had the fear of the other. As Marge said up here, anybody who was an outsider. So fear of the other, the fear and distrust of mutants by non-mutants in the X-Men universe reflects a broader societal fear of the unknown or different. Oh, they're going to try to make us all like them. It's age old. It's an age old subject. This fear will lead people to create conflict and then to oppress people. And it will also highlight the dangers of, well, I guess the X-Men would highlight the dangers of these kinds of prejudices and the importance of being empathetic and being understanding of people's differences and attempting to not other them, to make them feel part of the fold. As long as the things that they are doing is inconsequential to your existence and they are not hurting anybody, let them be them. That's the way I feel. But anywho, then we start talking about the ethical dilemmas. You know, we did have a little soap opera type stuff going on at X-Men, right? So there's a lot of ethical dilemmas, and there's the moral dilemmas as well. So, you know, ethics is Wolverine. When Jean and Scott were getting married, he went to the danger room in his tux and was just killing different versions of Cyclops in the danger room. Why are you doing this, Wolverine? Because he was facing his own ethical dilemma. These are people he's supposed to be happy for, but he is in love with Jean, so he know he can't kill Scott. So I'm gonna have to go in here and I'm gonna have to kill about 37 different versions of Scott Summers. They all got to die. They also face those moral dilemmas about how to use their powers for the greater good, grappling with the questions of responsibility, the consequences of their actions. You know, imagine being Rogue and having a thing for Gambit and being unable to touch him because you know you're going to drain his life force from him and you essentially will kill him with love. So you have to be hands off. Gosh. And you know they had a thing. You know they did. But anywho, so these dilemmas kind of mirror real world debates about power, responsibility, and the greater good. We're seeing it be fumbled all over the place right now. All over the place. I don't know if y'all can hear that rain. The rain sound real good coming down out there. But yeah, so power and responsibility, of course, we know that is a huge, huge theme, not just in Spider-Man, but across the superhero diaspora, that with great power comes great responsibility. And then you start looking at government control and surveillance, because you think about it, they just sent the Sentinels. They got different people playing spies and all of this stuff for the mutants, trying to watch what they're doing, trying to control their behavior, trying to control their existence, putting them in internment camps, yada, yada, yada. All of these things are happening because there were no checks and balances. And that is a theme of the X-Men. The government, many times in the X-Men, oversteps its bounds, uses what we considered at least morally gray means to keep tabs on the X-Men. And then genetic engineering and bioethics, because while we look at the fact that many of these mutants were born this way, some of them were hacked. Thinking about Wolverine. Wolverine was born with the kind of skeleton that protruded through his hands like claws. And then what did they do? They grafted adamantium to his skeleton and made him into Wolverine. And not only that, but then, you know, he also had the healing ability. And he's not the only one. There are many others who were basically enhanced more further than the enhancements that they were born with, put it like that. So those are the things that I was looking at. I'm like, okay, so those are our themes. And then we start to see these new posters that came out. And the first one we talk about is Wolverine heading up the bunch, James Logan. He charges forward iconic adamantium claws extended from his dark blue gloves. He is in the comic accurate costume. He is going to be voiced by Cal Dodd once again in this X-Men 97 series. Moving on, we got the leader of the X-Men, who is Scott Summers, also known as Cyclops. The original Cyclops actor, Norm Spencer, passed away in 2020. So Ray Chase is now going to be playing the role in X-Men 97. If you guys want me to Uh-oh. Can y'all hear me and see me? Let me know. I see that David said I lost the connection. So if you can hear me and see me, let me know. Because, okay, so when Grace, you got me. Thank you. I don't want to be sitting here talking to myself. I can do that without the computer being on. Okay, so Clarence, I was gone, but now I'm back. All right. So we talked about Scott Summers, Cyclops. Norm Spencer passed away in 2020. He was the original voice actor, and we are now getting Ray Chase in X-Men 97. Then we're seeing Jean Grey, probably, arguably, the most powerful mutant in history. She's going to return, voiced by Jennifer Hale for X-Men 97, after Catherine Disher took on the role in the original animated series. Storm, Aurora Monroe. She is voiced by Allison Seeley Smith. No. Yeah, she is. Allison Seeley Smith brought Storm to life in the 90s, and she is the returning voice for for Storm in this revival. I'm gonna go back, so make sure that you guys ain't trying to get me to stop, because okay. And then Magneto, he's going to have a different hairstyle. We saw that in the trailer. And he is going to be in a different position as maybe the lead of the X Academy. And he's going to be in that red and purple costume. Comic accurate. And he's voiced by Matthew Watterson, taking over the role from the late David Himmler after Himlin passed away in 2020. So David Himlin is voicing Eric Lensher. We got Beast, Dr. Hank McCoy. The original Beast star George Buza will portray the hero once again for X-Men 97. But he is the second Beast under Marvel Studios. Now, you know, Marvel Studios didn't have anything to do with X-Men in the early years of it, because Fox had the rights to X-Men, right? Now that Marvel has them, we're seeing the X-Men for the first time, except for Beast, who we have already seen in the post-credit scene of a movie that I hope everybody has seen, because I just spoiled it. Because Kelsey Grammer did come back and play a live action role in a post-credit scene. Jubilee. Jubilee was originally played by Allison Court in X-Men the Animated Series. Holly Cho will step into Jubilee's boots as she voiced the character in X-Men 97. And she got on same clothes we saw her in about almost 30 years ago. She got the same outfit on. Oh gosh. The outrage over Storm's hair in this is ridiculous. They're also saying that they built her more masculine. This is something that a lot of people are, the people who want to complain about this series are saying they make these women look masculine. I'm like, okay, if you can remember the old X-Men, I'm not, there are some young people, really young people, who have watched the X-Men cartoons, but most of the people watched that shit when it was brand new in 1997. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me that we are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and you still trying to, you want a sexy cartoon character? That's what you just like, you go out and get a girlfriend, a wife, a boyfriend, get yourself a partner. You cannot. What why do you want Rogue to have a big booty? Why do y'all want that? Why do you want Storm to have her titties out? Excuse my French. But why do you want that? Why are you talking about their shoulders? Why are you doing that? Who does that at 50? Who are you? Where did you come from? I need people to take a deep breath. This ain't normal behavior. Now, see, my phone is ringing right now. And I know it's my sister, and I've been calling her all day, and she wait till I'm doing this to call back. But anywho, Clarence said Magneto sounded very different. Not sure I like the new voice actor in the trailer, and it definitely was a different voice actor. Who did they say that was? Matthew Watterson, because David Hemlin passed away, so they had to get a different voice actor there. Sunspot, a new bright spot, literally in X-Men 97. He was absent from the original series, but he is being voiced by Gio Agostini. I hope I said that right. Eric Bishop. So Eric Bishop will be back in action for X-Men 97. Philip Aiken originally voiced the hero, and for X-Men 97, What If actor Isaac Robinson Smith will bring his talents to the role. Then my guy, Gambit, Remy Laveau, fan favorite Cajun. Going to leap back into the X-Men story. He's going to have his iconic trench coat and the staff that he utilized for his entire run in X-Men the animated series. AJ Locascio will voice Gambit in Marvel Studios' new series. The character was originally played by Chris Potter in the 90s. Now here is Rogue without the BBL. Rogue ain't got no BBL no more, y'all. But here's Rogue without her BBL, but she is still beautiful. Another core member of the original X-Men team is Rogue, and she is going to be voiced by Lenore Zane, and she'll reprise her voiceover in this 2024 revival. So it will still be voiced by Lenore Zane. Sorry. And here is the one that's causing so much trouble. Besides the girls not having booties and breasts and all of that good stuff, it is Morph. Now, let's remember who Morph was, y'all. Y'all remember Morph? Morph is a shapeshifter. Morph then changed into women. He then changed into men. And when he changed into women or men, whomever he wanted to be, remember that time that he kind of tried to seduce Gambit by pretending to be Rogue, and then he fooled Gambit into going to kiss the real Rogue, and she drained his life force. And so, okay, that happened. He also seduced Wolverine. He literally wore his body like Jean Grey, and then came on to Wolverine, kissing all on him and stuff. Do you mean to tell me that you think that it's wrong for this character to be non-binary when he's doing all of this? He never was one thing, was he? He moved all over the place. Yep. He presented himself as a male a lot of the times in the original animated series. And now they're saying, well, no, he's not going to present himself either way because he's not a he. He's non-binary. He's a they. And can they be they? I'm okay with them being they. Are you all right with it? I'm okay with it because it's a freaking cartoon. Number one, it's a cartoon that never was one thing. Never, ever, ever. They was just misgendering him. They just now, he came out and told them, no, I'm they. I'm non-binary. I'm not either or. And I'm not going to walk around looking like either or. I'm going to be whoever I want to be in this moment. And I love it. So, especially because it's pissing people off. Be a they, baby. Be a they. The character was originally voiced by Ron Rubin. This time, he will be voiced by J.P. Karliak. I hope y'all are all as excited about they, them morph as I am. Okay. Let's see. So Wingray said Magneto sounded the most different. The old X-Men was known for really subpar animation, but fantastic stories. And the way I'm understanding it, and I don't remember for 100% sure, is that the final season was the absolute worst animation. Absolute worst. But the stories, again, they gave you a soap opera feel. It was not something, it wasn't for a little bitty kid. You know, if you were in those tween years, this is for you. This is your Riverdale. This was your Flash, you know. So I liked it. Justice said, whoa, Wingrace, the animation style was awesome. I love that grainy old style. And I'm appreciative that they didn't deviate from the style. They updated it a bit to fit the times, but they didn't deviate from the style and make these feel like entirely different characters. If this story is picking up right from where the 1990s version left off, you know, there can't be a stark difference. There can be if they wanted it to, but I appreciate that there isn't a stark difference in the animation styles. Wingray says it was great animation, but they cut a lot of corners on it and it was inconsistent. Justin agrees. So Wingray says my biggest issue with Morph is that he sacrificed himself to protect Wolverine, the one X-Man famously known to be unkillable. Yeah, that didn't make a whole lot of sense, did it? Now that you say it. And then Wolverine was like, peace. And I'm going to stab Cyclops because you left him. Okay, I quit. Claire said, yeah, I guess it may have been subpar, but it trained my brain. This crispy animation is throwing me off. Oh, gosh. And Marge, I don't know what's making sense to you. I don't know. I don't know which one, what we were talking about. Was it any worse than TAS? I think TAS was worse, but TAS was made earlier. So, you know, it was the proper animation style for that time. It did look a little wonky for the 90s, the animation style. But I just loved it. Just from the opening, I loved X-Men. Winggrace is agreeing with me. But it was a different time. So, another big piece of news that came out about X-Men 97. You know that we have a queer Black showrunner, right? He got fired, y'all. He got fired. So it says in an unusual situation on the eve of a project's debut, the writer-producer who worked on Moon Knight and Blade will no longer be promoting the show or moving forward with future seasons. Gosh, I got to close some things up here because I got to go to my document and get that link. Doop-de-doop-de-doop. Doop-de-doop-de-doop. So the writer-director's name is Bo DeMaio. And again, he was canned very shortly before this show is coming to Disney Plus. Let me close that. So he was in the midst of a particularly busy time. Put it like this. I'm not going to read this whole article. There is a link in the show notes. Thank you, Marge, for reminding me to put those links there, baby girl. But I'm not going to read the entire article because they don't give us a reason why. They don't tell us why. Marvel and Disney did pass. I mean, Marvel and DeMaio did part ways. His company email was deactivated. Cast and crew were informed he was no longer on the project, and his Instagram account was deleted. So all of that happened shortly before this thing is coming to TV. There's no telling what transpired. I have heard things. I'm not repeating things that have not been substantiated from anywhere reputable. Because you go to those sites, we got this covered and shit like that, and they got their ideas, but it is not. It's not for us to guess. So, but oops, if this thing don't stop, y'all gotta excuse me. I think the gummy is kicking in. Marvel announced DeMaio's hiring in November 2021. The move was met with some level of excitement, as described, brought his identity as a gay Black man to the project and made it a point in talking to the press about how growing up as the adopted son to white parents with a Korean sister in the South made the X-Men characters and their struggles for acceptance by society feel personal to him. So, dang, it's sad that he's not going to be part of the production anymore, but this is ish that happens. It's studio-ish, I suppose. Some stuff that I'll never understand. I thought I was showing y'all this article the whole time, but I was not. So I already had the picture, but that is Bo DeMaio. Bo DeMaio, gay, Black, adopted by white people, Korean sister, living in the South. He probably knows a thing or two about how the X-Men felt growing up. So hopefully we'll see him in something else. We'll see him in some other way, shape, or form in the future, unless he did something effed up, then we'll find out probably soon enough. For me, now talk a little bit more about what we expect. What's our expectations? Our feelings? Do we have high expectations for X-Men 97? Now that we know that we are up against the same kind of trolls that we've been up against, and we are up against the let's close some stuff up. And that again, we I don't know if we're going to see anything mind-blowing. Do you think we're going to see anything that will put people or put these characters in the movie? I know that they said that this is not something that is canon to the movies. It's its own canon. It's this canon to X-Men, the animated series, but it is not canon to the movies, as they have said as of yet. They've not made any other announcements. But we did in the original X-Men, the animated series, see some non-canon to them characters, or characters that were made canon by just their little cameo appearances in X-Men, the animated series. I was watching New Rockstars, Eric Voss. He put out an hour-long video that was talking about the X-Men, the animated series, like everything you need to know basically leading up until this. And I watched most of it. I can't say I paid attention to all of it, but he does point out the Easter eggs, and he was pointing out where Doctor Strange and Clea were there. Deadpool was there. I mean, just in a little blink and you miss it type of cameo. Watto, the Watcher, was there. So, and there were many more. I can't remember them all. I think Hulk, but they couldn't use the word Hulk, so they called him something different. So it went on and on and on. It was all of these different characters that if you kind of look in the backdrop of X-Men, the animated series, you would see them playing kind of like the extras. Because those people are now, because they were there, even though they didn't have speaking parts or anything like that, they are canon to X-Men, the animated series. So is there any hope that we'll see any of these characters in X-Men 97? You guys tell me what you think. Well, first let me grab Wingray. Wingray says, I wouldn't want this to be canon to the movies. Only if it made complete and utter sense to do it. This could be another universe, you know, which I believe it is, of course. Marge, do you think an animated series allows more room to push context stories? I think so. Let's think about how much you're saving on special effects, especially when you're using the retro animation style. You can have these characters doing damn near anything you want them to have them doing without worrying about breaking a budget. And I think that is, to me, it means that I could put these characters in any situation I ever dreamed of having them in, and it will, you know, it won't break the budget. Justice says, I hope it's a good story, and I'm just happy to see these old friends again. Me too. And I hope it's a good story. We ain't got but a couple more days. We'll find out really soon. And I'm trying to figure out how we're going to talk about this. So look, so I got mostly everybody here pretty much is a member or a patron. So y'all opinions is what matters a lot to me. So I'm gonna give you some days, like my days that I could likely do a stream and be unimpeded is Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday. Sunday is hard because I've been up. I watched the babies this morning, but you know, you drink a little coffee and you end up staying awake. What is a good day to talk about this stuff? Because we're going to have some overlap with Star Trek Discovery. We're going to have a little overlap with Doctor Who, you know, and I've already said I'm not trying to cover Doctor Who in depth. That's Clarence and them. That's their department. But I will have some shit to say. But I'm not trying to be the discuss. I'm not trying to discuss who like discussing who. That's why I'm so glad that we have Clarence and Kyle and Lee to break down Doctor Who. Clarence says, hope people will give it a fair shake. I hope so too, but it's not looking like it's looking like that same vocal minority that is always making noise. They gonna always make noise. Now, whether or not they're going to actually watch the series and be fair when they talk about it, because I've heard nothing but good things from the people who have seen it. And let me see if they were able to put their thoughts on Rotten Tomatoes just yet. Because I didn't look. There go X-Men 97. We're gonna see. Because I've heard good things from the people who have seen X-Men 97. And I don't know. X-Men 97. Are there any ratings yet? So there are no ratings yet. But people who have seen it, or have seen however many episodes they were making available to the public, are saying that it's pretty good. They're enjoying it. When Grace is banking on a Spider-Man something, maybe JJ, since the Bugle is confirmed in it. Very good observation. Justin is looking forward to see what they do. Wingray says, since Ms. Marvel was just made a mutant, it would be great to see her at some point, but I may be pushing on that one, especially since that one episode where Rogue had, went to go visit Carol Danvers in the hospital because she had zapped all her powers, and they were calling her Ms. Marvel. They weren't calling her Captain Marvel in X-Men, the original animated series. They were calling her Ms. Marvel, and I'm wondering if that makes a difference. Does it make it impossible to introduce Kamala Khan as Ms. Marvel when you've already had Carol Danvers show up as Captain Marvel? I mean, as Ms. Marvel, even though she was still in the hospital. Oh, said, you wonder if they'll cross over with What If. I mean, like I said, we saw Uatu the Watcher in an episode of the 1990s version. Just seeing him. He didn't have a speaking role or anything. We just saw him. He was there when Jean was going to that sun to absorb the energy when she was, she had the Phoenix Force before the Dark Phoenix thing. So anyway, when she went, no, it was during the Dark Phoenix thing. Anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. When she went there, she went right past Uatu the Watcher. She went past Eternity. She went past somebody else out there. I can't remember who, but yes. So anyway, so you said, when do these drop? These drop on March 20th at 6 p.m. Central Time. So we can watch it and it'll still be daylight. Marge, you just cracking up, and I don't know what you laughing at because I never can remember what we were talking about when when the laughing started. The only thing certain people are going to like is Deadpool 3. Certain people. We ain't saying no names. He who shall not be named. What Woodbury said, I agree. Justin says he hopes Gladiator shows up. It's a whole lot of characters who I'm trying to think. No, I think did we see him did we see Colossus in the trailer? I don't remember. I'm wondering. Yeah, I'm wondering how they're gonna do it. I would like to know what characters we're going to see for sure in the trailer. I'm just so happy that Marge became a YouTube member that I'm putting that back up there because it makes me happy. You've been a member anyway, girl. So what else we got, y'all? Is there anything else y'all want to discuss about X-Men 97? And I mean, we're gonna talk about it when it comes time to talk about it. It's just hopefully it gives us the conversations to have to kind of fill in to bide our time for April 4th when we get to Star Trek Discovery, because I'm pretty sure that all of us will have plenty to say about Star Trek Discovery. But yeah, I hope this just keeps the conversation kind of fresh, where we can talk to each other and have something deep to talk about without me going into the archives and pulling up shit. Yeah, I think I'm almost positive we'll see Colossus and probably Omega Red, because do we think that we're going to get an entire season of X-Men 97 without Professor X? We know he left with Lalandra. We think he left with Lalandra and she was going to get him help from her universe or her galaxy or whatever. So in my opinion, we will definitely see them. Maybe not Colossus. I hope we'll see Colossus, but I believe we'll see Omega Red. Will Grace wants more Nightcrawler. And he has an effect on people. So yeah, this and Mark says, I love the archive dive, and it's fun, but I'm ready. Let's get some fresh. Let's have some conversations that where we will probably not agree 100% all the time. You know, and it is what it is. We nobody getting mad about if you like an episode that I don't, or vice versa. It has never been that way. People may have questioned some of the things. I can remember one time we were watching Star Trek Discovery, and I was like, I refuse to believe that anybody thought this was their favorite episode. And Clarence was like, I like that episode. So I've learned that just because you didn't like it don't mean other people didn't like it, Tasha. Yeah, I think Professor X will show up towards the end in that 3-part finale. Yeah, it is. It's fun to come up with these theories. Hopefully X-Men allows for that. I got a feeling that we're gonna make a game out of this no matter how it goes. We're gonna try to figure out the next move. And you already know, you've already heard my one of my theories is that I do believe we're going to see Professor X alive and well before the season ends, or by the end of the season. So we'll say, if I got to pick a time period, it's in that 3-part finale. That's when I think we'll see Professor X. And we'll do the same thing. We, thinking about Discovery and thinking about Doctor Who. I've already got ideas with Doctor Who from the Christmas special. I'm still like trying to figure out who the old lady is. I don't even remember her name anymore. I'm gonna have to go back and watch those again because yeah, I can't remember who she was and why did I think she had she's got something to hide. And you said we need Sabretooth and Logan to battle again. They better. Professor X is Patrick Stewart. Professor X is Patrick Stewart in the movies, but in the animated series, I don't have a clue who would be voicing him because they don't even have him listed as he's an NPC so far, and that's why I believe we're going to see him, and they will make an announcement after we've seen him who is voicing him. Yeah, Mrs. Flood. Couldn't remember her name. We had our little theories and stuff, and I still been kind of thinking about that. I got to watch those again just to remind myself what it was we were saying. I know flood, we were talking about water, we were talking about how pond and river, and so yeah, I'm jumbled. I guess the gummy is kicking in, huh? Yeah, I saw that. There's Star Trek movie news. They're trying to work out issues so we can get movies again. We're gonna try to report on that when they got something more concrete than just we trying to work it out. Because we're trying to work it out is to me like saying, don't give up on us yet. And we haven't, there's been a lot of press around Star Trek Discovery season 5 because we know that there are people who will see the first episode or the first 2 episodes at South by Southwest. Then you have the creators and influencers who have seen maybe the first 4 or 5 episodes already. So there's that, right? So we'll hear more. Tread very carefully out here in these streets. Most of the big channels, at least the ones that I'm kind of following, they are very discreet. they're not out here trying to spoil anything for us who haven't seen it yet. Lingray says, I'm not. Oh, wait. He said, I'm not going to bite on any new shows or movies until this sale or merger is over. Now, I do know that they have started production. Well, I think they have started production on Starfleet Academy, but we won't see that till 2026. So, there's that. Lingray said, some people got 4 episodes. Some people got the entire season, which annoys him. It annoys me too. I don't like that whole give me the whole season ish. Claire says that Ross Marquand voices Professor X in X-Men 97. Huh? Replacing Cedric Smith, who voiced the character in the original X-Men animated series. So now why would they announce a voice when he's supposed to be dead? Oh, but he does have a few speaking lines, doesn't he? He says, Justice says, I get that, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful too. Like, cross our fingers, cross our toes, cross our legs. The Atlanta Thrasher says they hope they bring Forge back into the show. I think, wait a minute. No. Did I see him? I should have put 97. See, yeah, it says Gil Birmingham voices Forge in X-Men 97. Forge is a Marvel comic superhero, is a mutant, inventor, and warrior. He has an innate talent for inventing mechanical devices. Forge is also leader of X Factor. So they got a voice actor here. That don't mean it's true, but I think he's coming back. That comes from Google Gemini. No worries. Wait a minute. That was Red Skull's voice. You got to be kidding me. He said Red Skull is Professor X. Wouldn't that be so nice? Right back into the multiverse with you. Just to see a Picard movie, sign me up. I think that'll have 7 and Enterprise G crew. Hey there, Bun. I'm still here. Don't worry about it, Atlanta Thrasher. The information I got came from AI too. So don't quote me because it says this here, but that don't mean it's true. Lord help us. AI is leading us down, leading us astray. Because yeah, this came from I think mine is mine Google Gemini too. I think so. Oh, glad you're back. Glad you're back. Shoot, you might be coming back just in time to hear me say goodbye. Yeah. Again, I have had, it has been a pleasure. Does anybody else have anything they want to add while I'm sitting here closing things out? It has been a pleasure, as always, talking to you guys today, bringing in discussing another series that we've all been kind of looking forward to, and that we are all hoping is as good as we remember the original X-Men 97 being. And I have been watching it. I haven't gotten to the end, and I keep falling asleep on certain points. And there are certain episodes of, I'm not 100% sure if I put the link in the show notes, but there was a article that had the top 15 must-watch episodes to get yourself ready for X-Men 97. Also, I noticed, and I still haven't watched that video, Eric Voss has come up with the top 10 episodes that you need to watch in order to get ready for X-Men 97. So when I get off here, I'm going to get myself settled, and then I'm going to watch Eric Voss's video to see what episodes that he is recommending, and I might put that in the Discord. And by the way, if you're not part of the Discord, what the hell are you waiting on? Come on over to the Discord. The link is in my Linktree, and that link to my Linktree is in the description. So thank you for being here. And being a mod, you and Mr. Windgrace, thank you. I got y'all moderating. It's always quiet. We don't ever have problems here. Don't be afraid to come here. We always have fun, and unless we don't. Oh, that red skull from Captain America. Good to be with you too, Justin. Good to be with you too. And you guys have a fantastic rest of your what is this, St. Patrick's Day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, Clarence. Thanks for being here. Thank you, David, and thank you for Atlanta Thrasher and everybody else. If anybody else was here and was just being quiet, don't be shy next time. I'm gonna hold you to that. Say it with your chest.